Hey guys, what's going on? It's Eli, back with another review video. And that's right, you read the title. I am finally reviewing what's on Disney Plus, Season 2 of Behind the Attraction. Yes, Season 2 of Behind the Attraction. I've been looking forward to, when Season 2 was announced, and, for me to review it, I, of course, reviewed Season 1, if you want to go check that out, and I stated that the first time I heard about Behind the Attraction and before watching it, and of course, when it started and with Season 1, I didn't know what to expect at first, but sure enough, when I watched it, I was immediately hooked on it, and I just really enjoyed this, documentary series, into the making of what's in the Disney parks, from attractions, or whatever that they cover, like, not just attractions, but if it's like an entire theme park, or if it's something like, I don't know, because if it's like a product or whatever, But yeah, so... And when Season 1 came, and when Season 1 was entirely finished, because if I remember correctly, Season 1 started off with like a couple of episodes, and then a little bit later, the rest of Season 1 came out, and, well, I don't think there was any word as to when we would expect Season 2. But then a while back, I remember, seeing the trailer, and I was just like, oh, yes, and yeah, we're finally getting Season 2. And thus, we have. And this time, and if I remember correctly, Season 1, started with, it had 10 episodes, but for Season 2, it had 6 episodes. Well, okay, I'm not complaining, no problem, and what Season 2 had in store, with what they were going to cover, were some pretty good ones. 6 episodes, gotta do the fingers, and they were some pretty good ones. Again, Season 2, I think, was pretty good. We finally got Pirates of the Caribbean. We also got Big Thunder Mountain Railroad, the Indiana Jones Adventure, an episode about the food, Epcot, the entirety of Epcot, the whole Epcot park, and the final and 6th episode of Season 2, Nighttime Spectaculars. And once again, Behind the Attraction being narrated by Paget Brewster, I got the name right, and some returning faces, cast members, there was, Tony Baxter, Joe Rohde, Bob Gurr, and others that, appeared in Season 1, and some new faces that we saw in this season. And especially because if I hadn't established this, and even, when I reviewed Season 1, I love that, they show some old footage and old photos that I don't think a lot of people have seen, and neither have I. I've not seen some of these photos and footage that was that is shown in Behind the Attraction, especially if it's backstage footage or photos of say when they're testing out something for an attraction and so on. It's really cool. So it's really cool, and again, Behind the Attraction is not just about, talking about the history and the making of these attractions, but it's more than just the attractions. For Season 2, there's an episode about the food, the food at, all around Disney, one theme park that they cover, which being Epcot, and talking about the Nighttime Spectaculars. Just really amazing. And, Season 1 did something like that. And I was very happy with, what Season 2 had in store, and, what they talked about. And some facts that, some of us, including me, did not know about. I think, probably my favorite episodes from Season 2 would have to be, the Pirates of the Caribbean one and the Indiana Jones Adventure. Yeah, those are probably two of my favorites. And just like what season 1 did, because, well, they had an episode about the castles and an episode about the Disneyland Hotel. Yep. And also an episode of the transportations, trains, trams, and monorails. So yeah, again, not just the attractions that they cover, but a lot of other stuff that are in the Disney parks, and you know what? They're important too. Yeah, like, all the history and facts that they talk about, and what they talk about in Season 2, really cool, because, you know, for Pirates of the Caribbean in this case, because it was one of the very last few attractions that Walt had greenlighted, and, you know, he was seeing the work in progress of it, and unfortunately, you know, he would pass away before Pirates would open, you know, the next year in 1967, and how in the episode about the foods, where, a lot of stuff covering about the foods, like the foods in Epcot, definitely, or like, say, you know, the usual foods and snacks that you would see at the parks, like ice cream and popcorn, and how popcorn and ice cream being served at Disney has come a long way. Like, golly, the popcorn, like, in different flavors, like chocolate popcorn. I don't think I've had that. I would definitely love to have that at the Disney parks. And also the famous Dole Whip. Oh yeah, the Dole Whip. Who doesn't love Dole Whip at Disney? This is Dole Whip we're talking about. And the turkey legs. Yeah, that too. I don't think I recall, like, in the foods, like, I could have sworn they might have talked about it in some way, but I don't know. Like, the Mickey ice cream bars. They're another popular thing at the Disney parks. From that, and the Mickey ice cream sandwiches. Yeah, I love having those. And also, like, the turkey legs are mentioned, of course. And also, like, how they talk about having their own, like, backstage kitchen or something, like foods department, basically, at Disneyland. And I think they took some of the parking lot spaces and, you know, converted it into, like, a food supply building and so on. And there's also a mentioning of, like, the gray stuff, you know, like in Beauty and the Beast. Try the gray stuff, it's delicious. Don't believe me? Ask the dishes. Yeah, that. Of course they have to have the gray stuff. And back to what I was saying, because about, you know, Walt Disney, like, yeah, he unfortunately passed away a year before Pirates, you know, came along. And another thing that's in the Pirates attraction at Disneyland, because that's where it started, at Disneyland, in the New Orleans Square section, inside the Pirates of the Caribbean attraction, well, there's the Bayou Lagoon restaurant. Walt was eager to, you know, eat and dine at that place, and because Pirates of the Caribbean was not finished, you know, one of the most important things to the Bayou Lagoon restaurant was, well, because where you're seated at, you would get a nice view of the boats floating by, you know, the guests riding on the boats, and, you know, on Pirates of the Caribbean. Yeah, like, again, Pirates of the Caribbean was not finished, and Walt basically, you know, stated that the Bayou Lagoon restaurant would not open until Pirates would be open. Because, yeah, that's understandable, because it just wouldn't feel right without having, like, the boats go by as you're dining, you know. And, yeah, Bayou Lagoon restaurant, that too, like, that's something that Walt would never get to experience again, because as he would sadly pass away. And, yeah, because the feel and vibe when you're inside of the Bayou Lagoon restaurant is amazing, you know? Like, you hear the crickets chirping, and it's nighttime inside. Well, the same goes for, like, say, in the Pirates of the Caribbean attraction, like, you're supposed to be outside at night, but, you know, in the world of pirates, And something similar to the whole thing of like eating at the Bayou Lagoon restaurant is, well, at Epcot, the Mexican pavilion, and when you step inside, technically you are outside, but it's nighttime, and the Grand Fiesta Tour starring the Three Caballeros, you're on a boat, and you would get the same kind of view that people would get when they ride Pirates at Disneyland, seeing the Bayou Lagoon restaurant, because there is a restaurant that's in the Mexican pavilion inside, and with the Grand Fiesta Tour boat ride. Yeah, so that's cool. So I like that, because some things in Disney that are similar to one another, and that's great, and you know what, I guess it makes you want to really experience like the other thing that's like this. You know what I mean? It's just, really cool. And the history of like on the attractions, like, and basically because, with it being in the entirety of every single park around the world, for Pirates of the Caribbean, because how it started in Disneyland and how it made its way to Disney World, and from there on, Disneyland Paris, Tokyo Disneyland, Hong Kong Disneyland, and Shanghai Disneyland. Yeah, because their version of Pirates of the Caribbean, like, far more advanced and, just amazingly done. The fact that you're in the boats and you're supposed to, go underwater. That's just really amazing. Also Big Thunder Mountain Railroad, because how it started, like, if you know your history, if you know your Disney history, I should say, because it started off with the, like, wilderness, the river, I forget the name of that one, that, like, train ride attraction. I'm sure it'll come to my head at some point, but that's what it originally was. And then when it closed down in the like late 70s, well, that's when like very later on Tony Baxter came up with the idea of bringing it back, and thus Big Thunder Mountain Railroad was born, and how it expanded in the Disney parks, Disney World. And I'm pretty sure, it did start off at Disney World, and then it came to Disneyland, and for it being in Disneyland Paris, and at Hong Kong Disneyland, there's a Thunder Mountain Railroad type of attraction, which being the Grizzly Trail attraction, also, the Indiana Jones attraction, because the history into that, and not just the Indiana Jones Adventure attraction at Disneyland, but also how, well, Indiana Jones made its way into other portions of the Disney parks, like at Hollywood Studios, the Indiana Jones Stunt Spectacular. I mean, who doesn't love the Indiana Jones Stunt Spectacular? And how there's like a Indiana Jones roller coaster at Disneyland Paris. Pretty intense, I guess you could say. Like, there is a loop. The ideas that they had for the Indiana Jones attraction from the beginning, it didn't work out at first. And, and the thing is, how can they do this for this type of attraction? And it would take a while, but sure enough, they would figure it out, and thus it works. And definitely when the Indiana Jones Adventure, opened in 1995, like, everybody was amazed by it. And especially, like, well, because, Indiana Jones being Lucasfilm property, before that, well, Star Wars had already made its way into the parks with Star Tours, and Michael Eisner and the late Frank Wells greenlit the idea of doing an Indiana Jones attraction. Especially Frank Wells was the one that encouraged the Imagineers to do this and so on. And, it's unfortunate because, and I had a feeling that they would mention this, that, Frank Wells, he tragically passed away a year before the Indiana Jones attraction opened, and he would not live to see it be open and experience it. And how also when the Indiana Jones Adventure attraction first opened, there were some like effects that they couldn't do at first, but years later, and when the Indiana Jones ride got a refurbishment, I want to say around 2013, it definitely got more improved with its effects and so on that they couldn't do at the time. And sure enough, with the technology that they have now, they could do it. And in fact, even I think a while back, the Indiana Jones adventure did have a couple of more updates, and, even to this day, it's, far more better than it was before, and the fact that the way that they built the Indiana Jones attraction, and I didn't really know this until watching this, that they had to take some of the parking lot space, they had to take that out and to build the Indiana Jones attraction. In fact, one parking space was called the Eeyore parking space, named after the character of Eeyore, and it was themed to Eeyore and so on, and how a nod/reference to the Eeyore parking lot space is in the queue. They have a picture/sign of Eeyore tucked it away in the queue if you can spot it, Just gotta keep your eye out and look very closely for these kind of Easter eggs, because you sometimes can easily miss them, And speaking of the queue, what they originally had in mind for the queue, but it never really could happen. They wanted to give it that feeling that you were in Indiana Jones, the walls coming at you and from up top and so on. But of course that didn't happen. So it's unfortunate, these things, they can happen, and especially how, one effect that did not last long, which was an avalanche effect. They used ice to make it look like rocks, a crumbling and, an avalanche coming down. Yeah, that did not last long, especially because, the mechanisms and the gear, it could easily rust because it's ice and water. Yeah. If only, when I was thinking about this when watching it, could they have used, fake rocks? And even to this day, they could make fake, practical, foamy rocks. Maybe they could do that, if they were to consider it. Hey, Disney, why don't you do that this time with fake, practical, foamy rocks, whatever? Ice might not have been the best option for the avalanche effect, just saying. It pretty much is not. I also like how, because with the Indiana Jones Stunt Spectacular, because, a handful of cast members that, worked at the Indiana Jones Stunt Spectacular when it first debuted, and some of them still working there to this day, and how one of them mentioned that, those that started performing at the Stunt Spectacular, years later, their kids are now performing there as well, and that's really good, Those things can happen. I mean, hey, it's Disney, so it's true. So when you think about it. And yeah, and just like what happened in season 1, and for season 2, there's some pretty good emotional stuff and touching stories that some of the cast members mention. Yeah, especially in the food episode where this one Asian chef was talking about this old man who was celebrating his birthday alone, and she said that this, I want to say, 4-year-old girl came up to him and wished him a happy birthday. That's touching. Hey, it's Disney, so anything can happen, and that's what's important with Disney, making memories and really touching your hearts, definitely. And speaking of which, something else emotional, because yeah, this was very nice, that season 2 of Behind the Attraction, and with the first episode, which being Pirates of the Caribbean, episode 1 paid tribute and, in memory of the late Imagineer Rolly Crump. Yeah, and Rolly Crump, who had appeared in season 1, especially, talking about the Haunted Mansion and such. Yeah, it was very fitting and nice to see that, season 2 paid tribute to him. It was really good. And, another, legendary Imagineer, and who's still around, and which, of course, being Bob Gurr, because his appearance in this, and, Bob Gurr, his part at Disney Imagineering was, the transportation vehicles and the track layouts and stuff like that, and talking about, some of the attractions that he was involved with, like Pirates of the Caribbean, yeah, and, Also, because, like, Epcot and with the transportation stuff. And about Epcot, because, yeah, Epcot, which translates to, short for Experimental Prototype Community of Tomorrow. Yeah. And how, if you know your Disney history, Walt's vision for the experimental prototype community of tomorrow was like, a city in Disney World that I think, people can live at. And just like an amazing concept. But of course, unfortunately, due to Walt's passing, like, that never came to be, and plans for Epcot changed, but I think in a good way. And what the Imagineers, those that worked with Walt, they continued on bringing the Epcot project to life in Orlando, Florida with Disney World, and how it has become to this day, and how it's basically a blueprint that will never decease, as Walt one time established. And it's true, because Epcot just keeps updating and changing, because, this is Epcot we're talking about, because it is something that's, that has to do with, tomorrow, just like Tomorrowland. Like, you get my point. And, attractions that used to reside at Epcot and new attractions that came in, like, the Universe of Energy. Like, at first it was called the Universe of Energy, but then called Ellen's Energy Adventure. And then it became the Guardians of the Galaxy roller coaster, Cosmic Rewind. And the fact that the story goes that Peter Quill used to, like, visit Epcot when he was a kid with his mother. He enjoyed being at Epcot, and for him and the Guardians to be there, really cool. And it was, I think, it was one of the biggest, like, indoor roller coasters that was at Disney World, especially, like, the only roller coaster that's ever been in Epcot. And also talking about, Epcot needed a signature piece, just like how Magic Kingdom has the Cinderella Castle. Like, Epcot needed its very own, like, Cinderella Castle, and thus it got Spaceship Earth. And the fact that inside of Spaceship Earth is an attraction, and it's crazy, and it is Disney magic. Like, when you step inside and you go through the ride, and when you come down, like, backwards, like, it's amazing how they did that, I tell ya. And also in Epcot, how, the pavilions have changed and new pavilions coming in, like, the Living Seas Pavilion, and how, different places like, Norway stepped in, and we had, the Maelstrom attraction, and then the Frozen attraction came in, and over at Paris, France, well, we had gotten the Ratatouille attraction. Yeah, again, just how Epcot, and this is Epcot we're talking about, how it's expanded and how it just keeps updating and getting much better because, again, experimental prototype community of tomorrow, and how, again, Walt established that it's a blueprint that will never decease and it just won't stop. Yeah. And of course, as Walt has said before, and of course, when it comes to the Disney parks, Disneyland will never be complete, and the same goes for all the other parks around the world. Also, more about, like, the food episode, because, talking about, like, how, when it comes to making the food and special sweetened treats, it's really cool and amazing. Again, like, there were some bits and pieces of food that I guess weren't really fully talked about. Like, as I said, like the Mickey ice cream bar. Come on, this is the Mickey ice cream bar we're talking about. It's right there next to the Dole Whip and the turkey leg. Why not that? I mean, it's just how the episode turned out, and it's fine, And the Nighttime Spectaculars. Yeah, the 6th and final episode of Season 2. Nighttime Spectaculars. Oh yeah, that was another good one too. And for it being the last episode of Season 2, how, the Nighttime Spectaculars first started, like, when it came to the fireworks show, the electrical parade, and when it came to the fireworks, because as the episode establishes, Walt Disney was walking with the Sherman Brothers in Main Street. And when it came to the fireworks show happening, he told the Sherman brothers, especially, turning to Richard Sherman, that that's the kiss goodnight. And not in like a gross way or anything like that, knowing Walt Disney, that's not what he was going for. And if you understand what that means and what Walt meant by that, yeah. And also in the Nighttime Spectaculars episode, the people that were involved and made these things possible, making the fireworks shows possible and the electrical parade and with its lights, yeah. I was a bit disappointed about one thing they did not bring up. I mean, yes, they brought up every single, nighttime spectacular at all the Disney parks, if it's Disney World, Disneyland, Hong Kong Disneyland, But just, with the parades, the nighttime parades, one parade that they did not mention, which being at Walt Disney World, and it was, everybody would consider it one of the best, nighttime parades, especially at Disney World. SpectroMagic. This is SpectroMagic we're talking about. And they left it out. Probably not intentionally. But maybe it probably wasn't really necessary to bring up, I mean, not even footage of SpectroMagic was shown. I'm not really trying to complain. I just thought I'd throw that out because it's true, But I'm sure they didn't do it intentionally, just so you know. And I should know that too, Yeah, and how, the nighttime parades, they've come a long way, definitely. And how, I think as of now, and as they stated, occasionally, the original Electric Main Street Parade would sometimes run, and how the one at Tokyo Disneyland, yeah, how theirs is, and it's amazing and beautiful, and how one cast member pointed out the Genie nighttime float. Oh yeah, really cool. And also, they of course talk about Fantasmic, and seeing as how Fantasmic started at Disneyland, and it was Michael Eisner's idea to do something at, the Rivers of America. There should be something at the Rivers of America at nighttime, a nighttime show at the Rivers of America, I should say. And, the ideas that they had for it at first, and what it would eventually become, as we all know, Fantasmic. And all the effects and stuff that they talk about, getting everything set and ready for Fantasmic. And yeah, obviously they mentioned this, and I think as of now, it's a bit awkward talking about this, especially after what happened to it. The Maleficent Dragon, of course they mentioned that, but as of now, that's a bit awkward and just depressing for them to talk about that. Probably because, yeah, they were working on Season 2 before that tragic event happened with the Maleficent Dragon. You know exactly what I'm talking about. Oh my gosh. But of course it's still worth talking about, because the Maleficent Dragon in Fantasmic, especially the one at Disneyland, was one of the true highlights of the show, definitely. And how it expanded, at Disney's Hollywood Studios and at Tokyo Disney Sea. Yeah, and they of course talk about the World of Color, the nighttime show at Disney's California Adventure, water fountains, lighting different colors and with screen projections on water, and which that would also be done in Fantasmic, and the whole thing about projections and, showing footage of Disney films and so on being projected in water, or on the castles, oh my gosh, and how... A fun fact, and I didn't even know about this, that over at Hong Kong Disneyland, and as we all know, that the Sleeping Beauty Castle at Hong Kong Disneyland got a major update where it got bigger and taller, and this had to do with the fireworks show and with the projections on the castle. Yeah, because they had to, update the castle at Hong Kong Disneyland just for that. I'm pretty sure, yeah. Or if this, I think it's that, and maybe this had to do with the fact that, Shanghai's Disneyland's castle is, oh my gosh, big. So if it had to do with that, I have to look at that again. And again, because the World of Color at Disney's California Adventure, just amazing, and how, because Bob Iger, because he wanted to, have a major overview, I want to say, like an update to California Adventure, and, then when it came to doing a nighttime show at California Adventure, and thus they did. And yeah, just how it's gotten much better and advanced, and with, a lot of fantastic, water fountain shows there. Just like, I could go on. It's just fantastic. So yeah, what Season 2 had in store from Pirates of the Caribbean, Big Thunder Mountain Railroad, the Indiana Jones Adventure, the food, Epcot, the nighttime spectaculars, a good list for Season 2, definitely. And two other things, because, yeah, I think I've seen some reviews where, they've complained on how, silly it is, especially with the narrator and so on. But that doesn't bother me. I mean, at least, it is Disney, and there should be some fun to it, don't you think? And how sometimes we would cut to the cast members, if they're just standing there smiling, stuff like that. It's just for laughs, it's for fun. But of course, they are still talking about the history and the making of whatever it is that they're talking about in an episode. And speaking of the cast members, because the second thing I want to talk about is, and as I've kind of mentioned, because some emotional stuff that the cast members would talk, especially some where they said that, where they were before, joining Imagineering, and how they one day dreamed of doing this, and, sure enough, they got there and where they are today. I love when they do that. And you know what? Behind the Attraction does a really good job on that, definitely. Season 2 of Behind the Attraction was a good season. A good list of episodes and what they talked about for Season 2. Finally they talked about Pirates of the Caribbean and, the other attractions and stuff they talked about. Again, Big Thunder Mountain Railroad, the Indiana Jones Adventure, the food, Epcot, and the nighttime spectaculars are a good list for Season 2, definitely. And I look forward to, hopefully, what they have in store for Season 3. I hope as though that we will get a Season 3, because, well, just like what happened after Season 1 came out, no announcement for when we would get a Season 2, so probably, now that Season 2 is done, we don't know when a Season 3 will happen, but probably and hopefully, sure enough, we will get a Season 3 without a doubt. And I'm giving, still, Behind the Attraction, 10 out of 10 stars. Yes, 10 out of 10 stars. Because, again, as I've been going on saying, I've really been enjoying this series on Disney+, this documentary series into the making / behind the scenes of whatever it is they talk about that's in the Disney parks. And what about you guys? Have you been enjoying Behind the Attraction? And what did you think of Season 2, what they had in store for Season 2, all that they talked about for this season? And what did you think of my review? Leave comments and give this review video a like as always. So, with all that being said, thank you very much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed my review of Season 2 of Behind the Attraction. More review videos are on the way. They're going to be awesome. Keep looking forward, and I'll see you guys in the next video / review. Take care, and again, hopefully, until we get Season 3 of Behind the Attraction, peace out.